Hey, good evening, everybody, or wherever you are watching us in the world. I hope you're having a great weekend. We've got the author Cregg Lund here, who has been writing about the evil, demonic network that runs through big tech. And it's come out on such a pertinent day when we've seen Epstein files released, talking about Elon Musk a lot, talking about Bill Gates a lot. We will get to that. Huge congratulations on the book, Cregg. And all of Cregg's links are in the description box below the video if you want to check the book out. And it explores Silicon, the claims surrounding symbolism, hidden belief systems within Silicon Valley, the culture behind big tech, secretive networks that influence decision-making at the highest levels, and the darker ideologies. So yeah, this is going to be really fascinating, folks. What got you into this subject in the first place?
Into what subject? Into
Satanic big tech.
I was part of it. I was in Silicon Valley. I showed up there just as a young engineer, and it's the kind of place that will allow you to cultivate pretty much anything you want. It's not like they're sitting around waiting for you to show up and run you through all the satanic rituals. You have a choice. It's if you want to be on the billionaire path like I did, I wanted to be filthy rich. Then you get on that. Once you're on that path, it's up to you. You go to the parties, you go to the rituals, you go to the orgies. You keep your mouth shut and you just show up. But at the same time, you got to be worth. You have to do work. You have to be productive. So it's sort of there's a lot of people that I know that reached out to me and said, Cregg, what are you talking about? That never happened. It's like, well, it didn't happen to you because you were on a different path. You were on that. I mean, you went to church, you were a Christian, you had a family. That's fine. They didn't bother you. But someone like me that was having a real affinity and aptitude for math and science and physics, I was productive, and I was also very ambitious. I wanted to be rich. So there you are.
So when it comes to rituals, we're familiar with things like Bohemian Grove, where they're worshiping the owl, etc. I mean, when this subject was broached to you about going to rituals, what was your initial reaction?
Well, it's kind of like the boiling frog syndrome, where you don't really know what you're getting into until it's kind of too late. At least that's the way it was for me. So at first I show up and everybody's impressed with my work, the kind of work I do, and the kind of person that I am, and then I had this very lovely wife who was very easy to look, very nice to look at, and that kind of thing, trophy wife. And so you go to a party and you get invited to a party and you show up and it's like anything, they talk to you, get to know you, and go to another party. Pretty soon you're doing drugs with them, and then pretty soon pretty soon you're having orgies with them, in the pool and this and that, and then you're flying around with them, and you're going up the ranks, and then you realize that was kind of weird what I just did last night, and then before you have time to think about it, you're doing it again and again. Pretty soon you realize. I mean, I'm talking second person. I'm talking about myself. Suddenly realize that I am in this really deep. How did I even get here? I mean, that's the way it worked for me. I think that's the way it happened to a lot of guys, that you just sort of kind of wake up and realize I'm in this really deep, and you either just keep going or like me, you try to get out. And it is not easy to get out when you get to that level. It's really not easy.
All right, we'll get to that. So over what time frame did you go up this escalation ladder of parties and rituals?
Well, you mean it kind of started right away. It kind of started. I was at Cal Poly, and I started meeting people when I was at university. I was working at Diablo Canyon Nuclear Power Plant. Started meeting a few people there. Started making connections, and then I got a job offer, and here, over there, over here, over there. And then you go, and they're happy to see you, and everybody's excited, and they wine and dine you. And I mean, they really wine and dine you. They have big budgets, I mean, Trey Louis was my drink. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's $120 shot of brandy. And then it's really hard to say no, especially if you're a young guy like me. Just I was having a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So it's really hard to say no. And I have a Christian background, so I struggled with that all the time. And then it got to the point where I realized it kind of happened at one ritual where it was kind of like the worst kind of ritual you can think of. and that's what I thought. I got to get the hell out of here. And so I made my first attempt, and ended up in a mental institution, in in the belly of the beast, the J ward of the Marathon Mental. They had me put there. Then they got me out, and it was sort of like, see, this is what we can do, right? So don't mess around anymore. And then my second attempt. Okay, sorry.
Let's
going
just
too
slow,
fast.
let's slow down a bit and just go over this in
right.
more detail. All right, so you're saying you were a young person. I assume you were a graduate. You enter into the tech profession, and in the beginning, they're splurging on you on expensive drinks. Is that what you said?
Yeah, but I mean, you make it sound pretty simple. So it really started, back at the ranch days, the partying. I grew up on my grandfather's very large commercial horse ranch. We raised pleasure horses, Tennessee Walkers primarily, and we boarded, bred, trained, showed. We had clients like Ronald and Nancy Reagan, and it was in the 70s in Middle California during the sexual revolution. And the horse industry, the equestrian industry, is 80% female, so it was a good time to be a young teenage boy, and right in the middle of the sexual revolution. So that's kind of that. I put that in the book because I wanted people to understand why I made the decisions that I made as soon as I got to Silicon Valley. I'd already been sort of groomed for that kind of lifestyle. And it's very easy to find if you really want it. It will come to you, but then it's up to you to cultivate it from there.
So what kind of family did you come from to be, having business dealings with the Reagans?
Yeah, so my grandfather was, he was a man of considerable power and wealth at his time, in his 60s. He came from a Texas cattle ranch family. He moved to Los Angeles for real estate. Excuse me.
You're fine. I love a sip
to get on real estate. Yeah, he moved to California for the real estate boom, and was always into horses. And him and his son, his son and my stepdad started the ranch like in mid 60s, I think. And because of their connections, they had Hollywood connections to begin with. My grandfather knew Walt Disney and a few others. They started, and pleasure horses are, Tennessee Walkers are very popular because they're plantation horses. They have a different stride than a regular horse. They don't trot, they don't bounce. So you can ride them all day. You can take them all throughout your plantation, check everything without getting a sore butt at the end of the day. They're very, very smooth. Right, that's why they call them pleasure horses. So, and females love them because of that as well. They're easy to ride. They're very smooth. They're very easy to show. I mean, you really don't need a lot of training to show it. So you just have to stay on the seat, stay on the saddle. So, but my family they got into the whole party thing, and they kind of blew the ranch. They kind of squandered the ranch. I was being groomed to take over the ranch, and they squandered it. And the whole thing kind of blew up, and then it scattered. And then my sisters were kind of trained to be gold diggers, so it kind of turned into a party ranch, and a bunch of bikers, a bunch of Hells Angels, and that kind of thing kind of moved in, which was fun. Again, it was fun. I was fine with that. And then I somehow got into Cal Poly. I was high school dropout. I was taking courses. I moved to Monterey. I was taking courses at Monterey Peninsula College, which was a really good city college because it's right next door to the Naval Postgraduate Academy. So the professors go back and forth. And that's when one of my physics professors said, you should go to Cal Poly and study computer science. I hope you get in. So I did. And then 2 years into Cal Poly, I started getting hit on from the guys in Silicon Valley, a couple of names that right now today. And that's how it started. And when I came out, I was going to hide forever. And then all of a sudden, people start talking about the things I'm hiding from. So I came out, I wrote the book. I hooked up with Dr. Jerome Corsi. He helped me write the book. And here we are.
So when you say big names, are you able to elaborate on them?
Well, I was in the beginning, and I've been kind of sort of strongly advised to stop doing that, to stop naming names. Okay. But it's not that hard. I call him the Stargate guy, right? I mean, I told Corsi a long time ago, there's two people to watch, Musk and the Stargate guy. And I've been right so far. I told him about the 1, 2, 3 ritual. Okay, sorry.
What was your entry level position into tech?
my entry level position. Well, when I hit Silicon Valley, I was already a senior engineer because of my work at Devil Canyon.
All right. So, and how old were you then?
I was in my 20s, late 20s, I guess.
So late 20s, and it just started out with at the lowest levels of the parties at that age, was it, with the alcohol?
Well, I didn't really start the low level because of the way I came in. I kind of had, I was very aggressive when I got there when it came to the parties because I was a party guy. I was a party animal. I was I was having fun. I wanted to have fun, so I would weasel my way into these parties. I like to say I Forrest Gumped my way into Silicon Valley, but I kind of weaseled my way in just because I was having a lot of fun. So the parties, everybody, there's parties all the time. And okay, first of all, Silicon Valley is a lot different place than when I went there than it is now. It was pretty amateur, pretty young, pretty naive at the time. It's a lot more sophisticated now, but the rituals and the other things that were happening were just sort of starting at that time.
All right, let's just take us slowly through how this stepped up to each level.
Mm-hmm.
So from your entry level, what was the next step?
Well, you mean it in the valley? You mean in
terms of how they indoctrinated you to higher levels of parties? What was the first step up that?
So the way you're indoctrinated is you start going to the parties, right? Somebody invites you over to dinner, and everybody's there. All the bigwigs are there. It's a really nice house out in Black Hawk or in Danville or something, or maybe I'm in San Francisco itself. And then then it goes to an orgy, and then it goes, and then you go to you find out, you realize you're at a ritual. You get to invite to a back party, to a ritual, but at the same time, I have a career, so at the same time, I'm talking to them all the time about my career. We're solving technical problems at the same time. So we're we might be in a hot tub all naked together, but we're trying to figure out a technical problem. So it just, I'm not sure how to answer your question. It just sort of started and then it just sort of ended, and in between, a lot happened.
Yeah, we're trying to get you to go on a chronological journey to take the viewers.
Okay.
As you're going over the years in the order it happens. Okay. And one of the viewers has asked a question then. So at the parties, the females then, were they the partners, wives of the men, or were they women that were brought in, for example, ladies of the night? How did that work? The female partners, where did they come from?
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of females in the valley at that time. Everybody, except for the wives, and most of the wives didn't really know what was going on, or if they did, they would participate. But the party favors that were there, I don't know who they were. Nobody knows really where they come from. They're just there. So there's really kind of two groups of people. There's what I call the Luciferians or the Lucies, and a lot of people have tried to get me to narrow down what that is, but it's just them. That's all I can say. And then there's the Satanists, and the Luciferians use the Satanists like groupies, and they use them as cover. So it's really hard for me to explain, but I can tell the difference when like these Gothic gals that you see running around. They're not the Luciferians. They're not the ones that are going to the rituals. They try to pretend like they are, and they get as close as they can. And if something goes wrong, then they'll get blamed. They'll take the blame for whatever went wrong. Like the Memphis 3. That was a ritual that went wrong, and those 3 guys got blamed. And evidently, the payoff is big enough for them to accept it.
So, how long did it take them before the satanic element entered the scene?
Well, the satanic element is kind of all over the place when you first arrive. It's, there's the symbols and everybody's naming their servers after satanic gods. And it's just sort of this culture of Satanism sort of embedded into everything. And at first it kind of looks just like Marcom, like marketing stuff, or just, a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons nerds in the basement naming, but there's more to it than that. And then, as you go to the parties, you realize that these people are very, there's a lot of debauchery right away. It's just really into the debauchery and the drugs and orgies. And I mean, that's just sort of, you don't go to the party. It's not a Christmas party you're going to an orgy. And then you start getting invited to the back rooms, and the back room might just be, a knowledge transfer ritual, for example. And those are pretty lame. You're just kind of standing around watching, and then some gal over there is mumbling something, and somebody's writing it down, and then they go try to figure out what it is. Most of the time, they don't know what it is, and then as you get more and more prestige and position, you go deeper and deeper into the rituals, to the point where you get to the point where you can't get out. What they did for me and a lot of guys is they send you to a kind of like a boot camp of their beliefs when you get to a certain point. I thought I was going to like a Harry Potter castle kind of thing, but it was just some business park in Bethesda. And that's where they kind of run you through. It starts off, you think you're going there as a company sort of orientation, but they start getting deeper and deeper into beliefs and what they tolerate and what they don't tolerate. And that's kind of when you really realize I'm in a cult here. I'm stuck in a cult now. How do I get out of here? And most of the people around you are loving it. They love it. They love their position. They love where they are. They like this. They're going to go with it forever. So it was very scary, very, very frightening to realize the situation I got myself in. Meanwhile, my wife and everybody else wants me to keep going. And it was hard to get out.
What were the beliefs as they were explained to you at that point in time?
Well, they have a strange belief. They believe that there's an unknown God, and that unknown God, and this is their belief, not mine. Okay, and their unknown God has two sons, Yahuwah and Lucifer. And Yahuwah is the bad son who's causing problems for humanity, and Lucifer is trying to save humanity. And the plan that they have, it's the same plan that they had in Babylon, Tower of Babel, is to break into heaven. The 5 I wills, right? Break into heaven, overtake the throne, throw God out, take over. And I mean, they really believe this. They do. They believe they're the good guys. They believe we're the bad guys. We're the dummies. They've been enlightened. And it's strange. I was at one of the parties a long time ago, decades ago, and they were, like I said, they were brainstorming something. I was listening. They were talking about how they can't use arches like they did the St. Louis Arch because people will notice arches all over the place. So they were talking about it, and they came up with Ferris wheels, mega Ferris wheels. We can put Ferris wheels anywhere, they're saying. And then like 15 years later, I started noticing there's these mega Ferris wheels going up all over the place. Have you noticed them? They're not profitable. I looked into them. They're building them everywhere. I think that this is part of their plan to break into heaven and the throne room. And then they also need to break into Hades and to hell and free their trapped brethren that are down there. And, the CERN and the Ferris wheels, I think are all part of it. It sounds crazy, I know, but it's a crazy world we live in. And if you haven't figured that out by now, you're late. You're late to the party.
So you said they distinguished between, was it Luciferians and Satanists?
Yes. Yeah. So the Satanists are the groupies, right? They're the wannabes. They're the ones who are trying really hard to get into that group, get into those back rooms, get into those parties. And the only way they can get in there is as the victims. They don't realize that. If you do get in, you're going to be a victim. So, but and they're the ones who are blatant about it. Their religion is the religion of I'll do whatever the hell I want. But the Luciferians, the Lucies, I don't want to call them Luciferians because people think I'm talking about something else. But the Lucies that I ran into, they don't like the person that scares them the most is the atheist. They cannot control the atheist. The atheist believes that, hey, I'm here. When I'm dead, it's done. And they can't work with that. There's no way to get to that person. And so there's a lot of them. There's a lot of atheists in the tech world. And then so the Satanists, a lot of those guys end up in the satanic world because it's attractive to them. They like the goth chicks, and they like the lifestyle, they like the culture. So it's sort of, that's why it's hard to distinguish. Like you have to, like, some people can tell the difference between a Hong Kong Chinese and a mainland Chinese. It's the same thing. Most people can't. I mean, I can because I work with a lot of them. I know Michael Yan can because he's been around a lot of them. But it's the same thing with me with the Satanists and the Luciferian and the Lucies. I can tell the difference just by their demeanor, by the way they hold themselves. And the Lucies use the Satanists for, as like I said, as groupies, as cover, as victims.
So who was organizing this? Who was at the top of it?
Well, you never know. You never know who they are. There's you can get to, you can, like the people you think are at the top aren't. They're beholden to somebody else or a group. I've been pretty close to the top. I've seen some of the uglies at the very top, but I've never been in a room with the top. So I've tried to explain this before, but this is another thing that's hard to explain is when you're around horses, a lot of horses for a long time, they have a very complicated social structure. They're not like dogs where they have one alpha dog for a long time. Horses hang out in groups of 3, and then the groups of 3 hang out in groups of 3, and they're constantly reworking their social structure, like chickens, like hens. They're just constantly reworking. And so if you watch them a long time, you can see who the real players are, who's grouping and what they're doing. Same thing with these guys, the Lucies. They hang out in groups of 3s, and then the groups of 3s hang out in groups of 3s, and on and on and on. And so somewhere at the very top, there's a group of 3. I call them the Silicon Valley Godfathers. I don't know who they are, but below them is a group of 9, right? Each of those 3 Godfathers is going to have 3, and I can pretty much tell on any given day who the group of 9 are. And there's about 7 of them that are constant, and then maybe 2 of the positions that kind of come and go a lot. And then yeah. It kind of works the same way with well, yeah, never mind. Sorry.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great, Cregg. So
well, the group of 3 thing is kind of important because it really, so for example, right now, I call it the Lucy Wars. Everything you're seeing, like the Epstein files and everything, is all part of what I call the Lucy Wars. It's kind of like the Game of Thrones, where you have all these different houses fighting, and the peasants that are in these different houses think that these lords are fighting for them, but they're not. They're fighting for the gold. It's the same thing. So the 3 top right now is Lucy. I call them Lucy America, Lucy China, Lucy Russia, and then each of those has their 3. And so, for example, under Lucy America, you've got the politicians, the entertainment, and then the high tech groups, and then there are subgroups under all those groups. And so those 3 groups in America are constantly fighting for pole position within Lucifer's kingdom. I mean, it's a constant battle. They're always, they see, Lucifer knows that he's bullshitting them. He knows the end game. He's read the Bible. He knows what, but his mission is to take down as much of humanity as possible. And so he's got them fooled into thinking that he's the good guy and that his plan's going to work and that they can bust into heaven and take over and bust. And that's what they're preparing for. It's easy for me to see because I was, my peculiar perspective was been corrupted just being around them.
So regarding these rituals then, is it just a minority of people in Silicon Valley engaging in these practices, or is it throughout Silicon Valley?
It's throughout. You've probably been to rituals you didn't even realize you were at. I mean, they're throwing rituals out all over the place now. And the more important the rituals. So that's part of Lucifer's religion is these rituals. That's how he gets his loyalty. That's how. I mean, he tries to copy everything that Yahuwah does, that God does, but he does it in his way. So the rituals are very important. You cannot be part of his team without attending the rituals. And the higher you go in the rituals, the higher you're going to go in position. So you get to a point where you're kind of wanting to go to these rituals. You kind of you feel important when you get invited to Costa Rica, because that if you're going to go to Costa Rica, something big is going to happen.
So as these rituals got more esoteric for you, what kind of practices did you witness?
Well, I saw the worst of the worst. I have a hard time talking about it in too much detail because I tried to leave it behind. That's the problem I have writing the book. Of course, it took Corsi 6 years to get this book out. I mean, after the first 3 years, I destroyed it because I couldn't take it anymore. Dad, my mother died. It was during COVID, and my mother died. I couldn't go see her. Strangers buried her. I was just so sick of that book and going back and reliving everything that I destroyed it. I destroyed it as only I could. And about a year later, my wife pulled out a hard copy that she kept. She said, you should take a look at this. And about the same time I was diagnosed with cancer, I contacted Corsi again, and we started talking about it again. And that's when I converted it to a novel, because I just couldn't write first person. It was just too hard. It was really hard on me. It was really hard. But I got it out as a novel. Writing it as a novel, putting it in a third person was a lot easier, but it was still very difficult. So to answer your question, I've seen a lot of stuff that you're not supposed to see. I've seen a lot of stuff you're not supposed to talk about. And that's why I'm hiding. You can't really hide from these people. All you can do is stay off the radar. And I did for a long time. And then I came out when I hooked up with Dr. Corsi. And I was very, very worried for a long time. And I think now I'm to the point where if they come after me now, they're gonna have a hard time finding me. But I don't think they will now, because I'm too many people know what I'm doing. So I think I might be okay.
So when we see things when we see things in the movies involving rituals, practices like animals getting sacrificed, drinking of the blood, etc. And then you hear about humans, things happening to humans. Are you saying all of those kind of things were going on, or did it stop at a certain level?
Everything you've heard about is going on. It's been going on for a long time, for a very, very long time. It's not new. It's been going on for a long time.
And some of these rituals performed in countries like Costa Rica because they can get away with more?
Because they can get away with more, and the meat, so to speak, there is cleaner because it's unvaxxed and unpoisoned by processed foods and stuff. I don't know if you get my meaning here, but
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So plus they can get away with it. So it's like you get on an airplane and they say you're going to Costa Rica, and you go to Costa Rica, but then you go to customs and everything, but then you get on another airplane or a helicopter or some big fancy limo, and you go someplace else, and then there's a party, and it's a ritual, and you go back home.
And you said that the people who partake and go along with this get promoted to the top. So is it like in politics where the people at the top of politics are compromised? Can they use, the participation in these rituals as leverage over these people?
Yeah, well, Silicon Valley is just a bleed off from Hollywood, which is just a bleed off from DC. So they're all doing it. They've all been doing it for a long time. So the reason why you see it in movies is so God's throne room is the courthouse, is a courtroom, right? He's got a throne. He's got a seat of judgment there, right? So it's a courtroom. Courtrooms have rules, and the main rule in God's courtroom is full disclosure, no trickery. So you have to show humanity what you're going to do before you do it. It has nothing to do with karma. It has to do with the rules of the courtroom. So if on your day of judgment, if Lucifer has tricked you, your defender Jesus is going to point that out, and the case is going to get thrown out. So Lucifer is very careful to follow. God follows him to a T, and Lucifer does his best to follow him as well. That's why you see a lot of this stuff in the movies. It's their way of telling us what they're doing without actually telling us what they're doing. So I couldn't believe this one movie called Mother, 2017, with Jennifer Lawrence and that Javier guy and they do a ritual. They do a baby ritual in that movie. I don't recommend watching it, but if you go watch it, you're going to see exactly what they do. That's what they do. It's common. It's not They're not. It's not Hollywood sensationalizing. It's not some artsy thing. It's what they do. They're showing you what they do. And there's another movie called The Neon Demon. Yeah, go ahead.
Keep going. Good.
There's another movie called The Neon Demon, and there's a scene in that movie where the gal is being confronted by the other gals there, and so they're asking, "Are you food or are you sex?" And that's pretty blatant. That's exactly the way the culture works. A young gal comes into the scene, usually underage, and is she going to be food or is she going to be sex?
Wow.
And everybody's trying to give their favorite Luciferian a free pass. You can't. That's why we have so many problems. Is everybody wants to give their favorite Luciferian elite a free pass? No, not him. He would never do that. Yes, he did. He did do that. Believe me, he did. He wouldn't be there if he didn't do it. You cannot be a billionaire in this world, in Lucifer's kingdom, without all the other billionaires giving you their approval. You can't. You can have $1 billion idea, but you're not gonna get anywhere without their approval, because they have all the resources you need. They have all the money that you need. It's really disillusioning to see people, a lot of people, that they should know better, and they can't get their head wrapped around the idea that they're all in on it. They are all in on it, you guys. There's nobody saving us. We got to save ourselves. There's only one way out of this, and it's to stop worshiping these celebrities. Stop giving them that power. I mean, we're handing it over to them left and right. What's coming up next? Oh, go ahead.
You got a question from a viewer, Marie, and she wants to know, regarding the movies that you just referenced, if the actors and the actresses know the roles that they are playing are based on, the network you've described.
Yeah, they've probably rehearsed in real time. They probably know exactly what roles they're playing, because to get to those roles, they had to actually do that. They actually go through those. It starts with what's called the gravy ritual. That seems to be that's like the second chapter in my book is an example of the gravy ritual. It's where you get initiated, and that seems to be where people get stuck. This book isn't for everybody. I don't even recommend it. I tried to get it pulled off the shelf after I wrote it, but the gravy ritual, if you can get past the gravy ritual, the rest is easy. But the gravy ritual is where everything starts. These rituals are very important. They're doing them all the time. They pretend like they don't do, but they do them all the time. Why does Johnny Depp have 9 kitchens in his 3-level home, right? I can tell you why. I know what each kitchen does.
Well, please elaborate.
I don't want to pick on any individual. I'm saying collectively, these guys are evil. Their club is evil. They're out to get us. What's coming next are the companion AI apps. So my theory is that they're going to come out either with either it's going to be civil chaos, or maybe another scan thing, like they did back then. Yeah, I mean, why does that guy need 9 kitchens in his house? What's he cooking?
Are you able to just give us, general idea of what you said? It was the gravy ritual. What that means? The
gravy ritual is when it's kind of where it's sort of like your first really rough ritual. Your first really, ritual that shows them and you where everybody, where we are, right? So it's a ritual where it's basically the signing in blood ritual, but you're signing in more than just blood. You're signing in some nasty stuff that is created on the scene. Yeah.
So you said the structure is parallel to the structure in Hollywood and parallel to the structure in politics. Do these networks overlap, or is it just one big demonic network?
Well, that's what I was trying to explain with the horse analogy, the 3 horses. Yeah, they overlap quite a bit. And someone like Musk, he'll jump from one group to the other. Like he'll be in the politics arena, the politics Lucy circle for a while, kick around there for a while. Then he'll go over to politics for a while, and then he'll dabble in Hollywood for a while. So what they're going to throw on us next is the companion AI apps. The Stargate guy and his two offspring, both of his offspring, David and Megan, are top Hollywood producers. Name a movie and they're involved in it. Any movie and they're involved in it. Right. So they're building these AI apps. I mean these companion apps. Their LLMs are during the build. The LLM it's hard to explain. During the LLM build, they're going to use a lot of these videos from the rituals to corrupt these AI companions, right? So if you're locked in your house because you're scared to go outside for whatever reason they come up with, you're voluntarily staying home, you're alone and you're isolated, and now there's this whole new wave of this whole new horde of companion apps that, for example, if you look at I've seen some examples like a trucking dispatcher that, I mean, it sounds like a woman on the other end. She's joking around with the guys, you know. They don't know that they're talking to an AI bot. Same thing that they're going to push out next, these companion bots. So you're going to be at home and you're going to be bored and lonely, and you're going to dabble around with these bots. They're going to know everything about you because they have access. They're going to know more about you than your wife, right? They're going to become your best friend, and they're going to pull you in. But don't forget about everything they've been corrupted with. They're also going to influence you very subtly to do things you wouldn't normally do, you know, and other things. For example, why do we think Jackson Pollock paintings are worth $40 million? It's because they told us that they were. And why did they do that? It's because AI can't compete with real Rembrandts. So they're going to have AI take over everything. Our art, our music, our literature, that's what defines humanity. They take that away from us. There's nothing left. We're just a shell. And they're doing that right now. And they're doing that by influence, by subtle and constant influence. I saw them doing it. I saw them building the things. That's why I got out. I knew this was coming, and that's why I got out. And it's here. So if you hook up with these AI companions, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Just don't do it. Just stay away from them.
So you're saying that the AI is going to take away our ability to think for ourselves?
Yeah. Why would you need to? I mean, I can see these things. Okay, so you have an AI companion at home and you hook up with it on your laptop, and then the next version that comes out is a little bit more sophisticated, and then another version comes out, and it allows you to give it permission to all of your security. So now it's paying bills for you and by making purchases for you. For example, an analogy I like to use is, and it's jumping from, as you move through your day, it's jumping from device to device to follow you around, right? You know, like the thing in your ear. And so and someday, you know, you're at the grocery store and you're looking at a ribeye steak, and it can sense that you're looking at it because it's that sophisticated, and it will tell you, don't buy that ribeye, buy the miracle meat right next to it. It's a tenth of the price, and you need it'll bump up your social credit score, which is getting kind of low, right? So pretty soon it is thinking for you. You're letting it because it's hard to navigate through the day anymore, you know.
And you got a question from Kelly is how can we counteract that?
Well, the only way I can see is to go back to reading books, get off the internet, stop worshiping these Luciferian, these rich people, these my grandfather was a wealthy guy, but in his culture, they hid their wealth because they were embarrassed by it. You know, greed was considered a bad thing, and then around the 80s, greed became a good thing. And now we worship people just because we want their opinion on politics, and just because they have 5 mansions. That's the only way to stop it, is to stop listening to them. But that's not going to, I think we're doomed for a while, at least.
So people have listened to these people for decades because they portray themselves as doing charitable deeds, helping the world. You know, Elon Musk came in as the savior of free speech. Bill Gates is always talking about his projects, helping all these people in foreign countries and stuff. Yeah, with the release of the Epstein files that have come out yesterday, they're doing the complete opposite. You know, Bill Gates was trying to get drugs from Epstein because he contracted an STI from some Russian girls, and he thought his wife had it, and he was going to drug her up and miraculously cure her without her knowing from catching this disease. And then we've got Elon, who started the Trump tweet saying Trump's in the Epstein files, that's why he won't release it. We've got Elon coming out saying to Jeffrey, I want to come to the PDF file island and party hardcore. I don't want a peaceful time. I want to, really let loose. Is it all just public image with these people and PR, but behind the scenes, they are engaged in these demonic practices?
Well, the file that came out recently is just confirmation of what I've been saying all along. And these are the people that I know. This is what I know about them. That's all. All their good works and everything. That's why I hid and just stayed silent for so long. I just couldn't stand it anymore. I know who these people are. I know what they do. I know what they're up to. I know what's going on. I could be there if I'd stuck with it. I probably would be there with them. I mean, I was on that path right along with him. I mean, I was, Stargate guy and I were on the same path together. But I'm not going to do that. I mean, I'm still trying to patch up the holes I punched in my soul from those days.
How is it these guys are able to get away with this stuff without any consequences?
Because we let them get away with it. That's what I mean. Everybody stop worshiping these guys and hold their feet to the fire. Yeah. The other thing about the Epstein files is, to me, that's more of it's a real big distraction, because there's a lot of Epsteins, there's a lot of islands, there's a lot of victims. To me, it's why are we concentrating on this one? I never even heard of him, but I heard of all kinds of people like him. I've met a lot of people like him. I've been to a lot of islands like his. Not islands, but resorts like his, I guess, compounds. What's the big deal about him? I mean, to me, it's all it is. They're doing this on purpose. They're pushing him out there on purpose, and I think it's because they're trying to get ahead of people like me exposing him and owning it. Right? It's like, well, okay, yeah, that was that one guy, Epstein, and handful of people. Yeah, that's all. I mean, you're making it. If you weren't an Epstein client, then you're not a PDF file. I mean, that's kind of what they're conditioning us to believe, that if you weren't hooked up with him, if there's no connection to him and that island, then you're okay. Like I said, I never even heard of him.
Why did they have the islands in the first place?
Well, they have a lot of places. They have a lot of places that you can go to. There are islands that have disappeared. Where did they go? There was one that disappeared in 1996, a chain. I can't remember the name of it. I did a little bit of research on it. It had been there for a long time, and some ships said, "Hey, we went out there to go find it. It's not there anymore." So they took it off the maps. What do you think is going on at that island? And Costa Rica. I've been to places in Costa Rica. I've been to places all over the place. San Francisco. They're not on islands there, but there's things going on. You're down there on the street at Starbucks, right around the corner. There's something going on that if you knew about, you would, your whole life would change. If you knew about what was going on, probably 50 feet from you, your whole life would change.
All right, let me just speak to the viewers real quick. We've got 2,500 people watching presently live. There's a huge interest in your story, Cregg. There's tons of questions coming in. We're going to get to them. Thank you, viewers, for all the questions. Please keep them coming in. I'm saving them until Cregg completely gets through his story. And if you want to do the deeper dive, Cregg's book, Silicon Satan, there's the Amazon link right now. I'm just putting it in the live chat. And it's also in the description box below this. So how many years of the rituals were you involved in?
Well, like I said, they kind of start right, the rituals start right away. Sometimes you don't realize you're at one.
You said you were in your late 20s. How long did it go for?
Yeah, I was in the valley for about 20 years, 25 years. And when I came out, when I fled, I still do contracts. I just do it secretly under different names and such. I mean, it's really easy to do because, for example, if Lockheed Martin puts out a request, someone will pick, some big firm will pick up the contract, and then subcontract out to boutique firms, or subcontract out to body shops, and finally get to me. So it's hard to trace. It's very hard to trace. So to answer your question, I was in the Valley as a player for about 20 years. It took me about 5 years to get out. And then I've been hiding out I'm 65 years old now. So my career is over. My life is ending. So I'm okay. That's why I wrote the book. It's that, well, if they come and get me, whatever, I'm fine. My life.
For over those 20 years, then you must have seen a lot of stuff. Were you active in the practices over those 20 years?
Well, yeah. I mean, to a point. I'm not going to incriminate myself here, but you do. A lot of things that are being. A lot of times you're just observing. Like that movie Eyes Wide Shut. A lot of times you're just kind of walking around observing. There's stuff going on, and then you might see a group of people that you go over there and talk to them, and you're talking about work. It's kind of weird. You're talking about technology stuff, but and the rituals aren't like the main focus there. They're just kind of going. They're just kind of there. It's not like you're in college and you go, okay, I can't wait to get to Silicon Valley and start doing the rituals. You don't. Nobody really knows about this. It's just like Hollywood and DC. I guess Hollywood though is a little bit more exposed. But when you get there and you get invited to a party and you feel special, and then you get invited to another party, and that might be 3 weeks apart. Or you go to a ritual, and there might be 3 or 4 rituals close together, like bang, bang, bang. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And then you don't hear from anything, and then all of a sudden you'll get an offer, or if somebody wants to have a sit down with you, and they start talking stuff out, mapping stuff out, and then you see them at the next ritual. And if you don't go to the rituals, if you start pulling out, you don't get the offers. You don't get invited to the meetings. You don't get invited to the parties. You don't know what's going on, and that's where you pick up a lot of the information that to help you be productive. It's sort of the old boys network. That if you really want to be successful in Silicon Valley, you got to go to the rituals to pick up on a lot of the information that's floating around. A lot of the information that they get through knowledge transfer rituals, and they don't always understand what. In fact, they rarely understand. I was having a conversation with another guy, Nino's Corner, and I mentioned that I don't believe in DNA, and he took issue with that. And it's not that I don't believe in DNA. I don't believe in the man's interpretation of what DNA it might be. They picked up they got that knowledge somehow, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're presenting it to us as though they have it all figured out. But has it really helped? I mean, yeah, okay, forensics and that kind of thing, maybe some vaccinations, that kind of thing. But it's not that big of a deal, is it? It just makes them sound specials.
So over time, then, as you're getting towards exiting the rituals, are you having a change of heart? Was the things that had happened that caused you to have a change of heart?
Well, for me, I was having a change of heart for a while. I just didn't know how to give. I had two Harley Davidsons, a sailboat, a $12 million stock portfolio. And it's hard. You really, it's like, okay, I got to give this up. What do I do? What do I do? I'll never work in the industry again. I can go back to horses, I guess. And so it's so. But then there was one particular event that occurred that it was something I'd never attended before, and I did not like it. The way it made me feel spiritually. It's hard to describe, but I fled. That's what I fled, and that's when they threw me in the mental institution, and then I got out, and then I tried to get out again, and then I got ran off the road, and I broke my neck, and I was going to be. They told I was at Stanford, and they said you're going to be paralyzed, and I'm not. But out of that wreck, I got some money, like $65,000 or something. That when I finally decided to make the move, that was the money that I used. I had to give up everything. I had that money. I took that money. I went up north to Mendocino, and I hooked up with some horse riding outfitters up there. I hid out with the rest of the tweakers, not the rest, but I hid out among the tweakers. and just cleaned stalls and gave people rides on horsebacks. And then the DOD contacted me one day, and it's like, oh geez, now what? But they had a position, they had a job for me at the Space and Naval Welfare Center. So that made me feel a little bit better. So I kind of went back in at that point. But that's kind of like the last thing I did. After that, I disappeared. I just deleted everything, disappeared. I took that 65,000 and made it last a long time.
So, Cregg, you said you had a change of heart, but you didn't say what caused the change of heart.
Yeah, I'm kind of deliberately avoiding going into the details of that. It was a ritual, all right. It was an awful ritual. You know, when they get bad, they get bad. I'd never gotten that high. That was it for me. I was not going to go beyond that. That was it. You know.
So it went too extreme. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
But the people at the top, they can stomach that, can they? They get off on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They do. They do. It's awful. If you watch that one particular scene in that one particular movie I'm talking about, that's kind of the frenzy they get into.
Eyes Wide Shut?
No, the Mother movie. There's a scene in that movie that involves an infant, and that's them telling you what they do. It's them telling us, so they can't be called on, you know, for hiding it. So I realized that when I realized what was going on, I took off and came back, and they were ready to deal with me. You know, they knew how to deal with me.
Had you seen other people who tried to get out and bad things had happened to them?
No. Nobody ever. You never really talked to anybody like that. You never really said to anybody, God, this is crazy. I gotta get out of here. That would be the wrong thing to say. You couldn't even indicate that. You know, it had to be you're fully into this. You're fully committed. You are fully there. Otherwise, it's not that you feel your life, but you're going to lose your livelihood. You're going to lose your career. You know, at best. You know, depending on what you know and what you're threatening them with, you could get unalived.
Do they make it clear there will be consequences?
They do, yeah, but not, I mean, it's not like they give you verbal threats or anything. But you know, of course, there's going to be consequences. And it's more that you're cultivating your own path there. So it's not like the mafia coming at you. You get to make your own decisions along the way. And if you don't make a decision that they don't like, it's not like they're going to come to your house and break your legs. They're just not going to give you the promotion. You're just not going to get the stock option. You're not going to get to go to the next party. That's what you're protecting, is you're cultivating something that is going to make you filthy rich, you and your family. So you don't want to lose that. You know, you put a lot into it. You've gone to other rituals. You've done things you can't stand to think about to get here. And the last thing you want to do is give it up.
Because you're a liability to them, aren't you? If you are getting out of it, because things have happened that you know about. You have this knowledge.
All right, and I have Polaroids. The thing about Polaroids is you can't Photoshop them, and you can date them.
So have you got like a dead man switch?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have come out if I didn't.
Yeah.
You got to have something. You got to have leverage. Otherwise, just stay hidden. If there's anybody like me listening, you don't have anything, stay hidden. There's no point coming out. Just stay hidden. We're so deep into this now. The world is it's too late now. You know, it's happening. They're coming for us. This is going to happen. There's no way you can stop it. They're not going to turn it off. They're so deep into this now. I didn't think it would happen this soon, really, but here it is. We're here.
So the program is accelerating.
Mm-hmm.
And do these people control the government as well?
Oh yeah, they control they're everywhere. They've infiltrated every institution across. In fact, I'm seeing them now infiltrating the podcasting industry. You know, I'm hearing about a lot of the top podcasters. They're going to the parties now. They're talking about, I got invited to this party. It was weird, but then all of a sudden, you know, I got 2 million new viewers, and you know, so they take over everything. They run governments, they run schools, they run everything. It's Lucifer's kingdom. We're in Lucifer's kingdom.
So one of the viewers is asking, what do you mean they are coming for us?
They don't want Lucifer wants his own race of people. I mean, that's what they believe. They believe Lucifer wants his own race of people, and it begins with them. And we either convert by going through all the rituals and becoming enlightened like they are, or we're at it, or you know, we're dead, pretty much, right? And by that, I don't mean they're gonna come out and shoot us in the head. I mean, maybe they will, I don't know, but they'll make things so difficult that it's hard to survive. It's difficult to survive on your own unless you go to them for all your basic survival needs. So they've already started that. They're so far into it now that I don't see how we can stop them, except to get into the situation I'm in. We're up here. We're self-sufficient. I can close the gates on my compound, and we could be up here indefinitely. Nobody can get in. Nobody can get out. If they do send anybody in, they'll just have to get a new team and a bigger budget for the next time, right?
So stuff like 15-minute cities, AI, you know, digital IDs, there's like a digital control grid. We see all these things, you know, the government's introducing these things. Is that part of the AI imprisonment that you're getting at?
Oh yeah, of course. The 15-minute cities are kind of already here. If you think about it, you know, time is relative, so is distance. Everybody's sort of a 15-minute city just means that they're going to provide you with everything you need. You don't have to go anywhere. Everything you need, they're going to tell you what you need and then provide it for you. But yeah, it's all part of it's all, you know, I don't see them putting a whole lot of effort and expense into the prisons, you know, that they're going to keep the remaining folks in. You know, they're wiping out all the cities and along the California coast and other nice areas. By the way, you know, that Stargate guy, if you look at what he owns most of Silicon Valley. Well, pretty much all of Silicon Valley, most of Lake Tahoe, most of Malibu, all the places that are getting attacked, you know, and getting wiped out. All these guys have a hand in. Hawaii. I mean, who gets to own their own Hawaiian island? The guy owns an entire Hawaiian island. Everybody wants to own an island, but who gets to own it? An entire Hawaiian island.
You're getting asked, is data surveillance meant to keep us under control?
Data surveillance? Yeah, of course.
And Catherine wants to know the last time you attended a ritual.
The last time that's the one I was talking about when I bolted. That was I don't know. I'd have to think about the time frame.
Has it been years?
It's been a while. It's been it's kind of, I remember kind of like around the Y2K era was when that happened. I mean, Y2K was all over the place at the time.
The millennium.
So probably around late 90s, somewhere in that era.
All right. Do you still have nightmares about this stuff?
I do. I married the perfect woman. She's a trauma nurse. In fact, that's how I met her. I bought a house in Squaw Valley, and I was remodeling, and I threw the old toilet into the thing, and it shattered. It blew up, and a shard stabbed me right in the. I went to the ER and met her. She said she wouldn't date a patient, so I got up to leave. I was going to go to a different ER so I could not to break her rule. But anyway, so we ended up getting married, and she's been very, very good for me. But yeah, I do wake up with the night sweats and screaming still. And you know, I had that under control for a long time. Writing this book sort of brought a lot of it back. So that's why I quit at some point. But then I realized it's just going to hang on me. I got to finish this project. Otherwise, this is just going to hang on me forever. So I did. I finished it. I might write a second one. I don't know.
And is that like to balance out your karma?
The second one?
Just doing all the activism and the writing, is that balancing out your karma?
Oh yeah. It's making me feel better about my life. You know, I wasted most of my life just you know, in debauchery and doing the things you're not supposed to do. Everything that a man is not supposed to do, I did. And so yeah, coming out, you know, and Dr. Corsi also is he's a very patient man. I mean, he's really been good for me because he's sort of walked me through a lot of this, you know, not just how to write. I'm not a writer. I don't know how to write, but how to deal with a lot of the trauma, you know, after the fact, a lot of the PTSD kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm never going to get healed from this. I mean, I've resolved myself to it. I'm fine with it. I don't mind talking about it. When I first put the book out, a bunch of things started happening right away that I was wondering, like I got beat up in the street by some street demon, got my teeth kicked out. And then
when was that? Sorry, Craig, when was that and how did that come about?
That was right after we published the book. I was getting ready to do my first interview with Dr. Corsi. I was taking a friend to the airport, and I took my gun because you can't have a gun in the airport. So I put it in the glove box, and then I was coming back to the car, and somebody pushed me down the steps. And I wasted time reaching for my gun that wasn't there, and he kicked me in the face and knocked like 6 teeth on the top out. And I got to get the bottom ones. The top has cost me $15,000. So now I got to get the bottom ones done. But that happened right after the book. And then right after that happened, that took a while to heal up. And then we got swatted up here. I mean, getting swatted up here was sort of weird because just one ship coming up here is hard, let alone I think it was 8 came up here. And then somehow I got poisoned. You know, I mean, I don't know if these things are related, but then the book suddenly took off, and people started asking for interviews. So I don't mind doing them. These people don't scare me anymore. In fact, I hope they come. I hope they martyr me. It would be fun. It'd be a good way to go out, right? A good legacy. He wrote a book and they killed him for it.
The attack then, who do you think was behind it?
Well, it was this kind of thing has happened to me before. And, you know, I told my wife when I met her that in fact, my family told her, you know, you be careful. This guy's kind of crazy and things happen to him. But I've been attacked before, and I think it's a spiritual thing. I don't know. People have maybe led me to believe that, but this particular time it was just some street demon, you know, some street guy. The police said, oh, it's just a random act of violence. He's a homeless guy, and if you want to press charges, like, no, not really. I mean, what am I going to do? Come to court and you know, the guy, I don't think the guy even knew what he was doing. But that happened in San Francisco too. Some guy threw me through a mirror, a full-length mirror that was out in front of a shop. Some guy just ran up and threw me through it. Cut my face all up.
Rose has got a question. So, you know, during your life, you know, when you were participating in these rituals, did you ever experience or see a demon?
I've seen things that I guess you could call demon. I've seen a lot of weird things. I've seen the weirdest thing I see that I would see pretty routinely would be like these wispy kind of things floating around in the kind of like up in the corners, and I've actually seen them other places too, like in churches and such. But there's demons everywhere. I mean, people see them all the time. You just don't realize what you're looking at.
Would you describe them as shadow people?
Yeah, you could. I've other people have suggested the same thing, that I was looking at shadow people, but I don't know what they were. I think that they were just. I think that these things can appear to people in any way that they want. They can appear to me as one thing, appear to you as another thing, all at the same time. And I think they have that kind of ability. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I think a lot of them do. And I've seen some human beings that they're no longer human beings. I don't know what they are anymore. They're not men anymore.
All right, we've got over 3,000 people watching live. Huge interest in this story this evening. We've got about 20 minutes before Epstein victim number 1 is coming on live. Marina, I don't think she's done many interviews. We're going to be getting her story and talking about the Epstein files release. So if you've got questions now, folks, get them in the chat. We've got 20 minutes for you to ask Cregg questions with us while he is live. And don't forget, his links are in the description box. I'll put them in the live chat again. The link for the book on Amazon. And let's see this question from Billy. Does Cregg think that all of these rituals are linked to the rebuilding of Solomon's temple, which Israel is in progress of doing?
Well, I don't know enough about all that to actually answer that question. So when I look at the world events, what I see, again, is just a lot of what I call the Lucy Wars. And to me, it's just like watching Game of Thrones. It's, I can, when Trump goes after Venezuela, he's not doing it for us. I mean, yeah, if you're a Trump supporter, that's great. But I know for a fact that those people are fighting for the gold. Whatever the gold is to them, that's what they're fighting for. They don't fight for humanity. They wouldn't get anywhere. If they were truly fighting for humanity, they come out and say that. They come out together and say that, and they go back in the back rooms and they, do crazy stuff to each other and laugh at us, and then come back out and say it again. It's that it's easy to, once you realize that they're all in on it and you're not like stuck in denial, then it's easy to see what's going on. You just there's a lot of things you have to let go of, though. I mean, I would love for Trump to be our hero. I would love for Trump to be bona fide and real, but there's no way that he can be. It's just impossible. I would like to be proven wrong, but you got to face up there. It's impossible for him not to be one of them.
And that is one of the main things coming from this Epstein files release. They are absolutely all in on it. It's just one big club, and they just pretend, Republicans versus Democrats. They get up there and lambast each other, and it's all just World Wrestling Federation antics for the masses. They're all putting their robes on and going out to the woods and worshiping the owl and sacrifices. So you got a question here from Britain, Colette. What do they get out of the rituals? Do they actually think they work?
Okay, so the rituals serve a lot of different purposes. One is they're fun. It's a party. It's a big celebration. There's a lot of money behind them. None of these parties are cheap. All these rituals are, they spare no expense. The other thing is there's usually a reason behind it. Certain, like the blood rituals is something big, but like the initiation rituals or the humiliation rituals, those are just sort of routine as part of the, what you signed up for. And then the main thing though, is that they show loyalty to the club. The more you're seen at the rituals, the more you're going to get, the higher you're going to go. So if they keep seeing you and you're hobnobbing in the hot tub with a bunch of fat nasties, you're going to go places.
And that goes all the way to the top.
Unfortunately, it does. And I apologize for being the messenger, but people got to understand that there are no exceptions. How can there be? Think through it logically. How can there be? How can one man take on this entire world and say, "Oh, I'm going to take you all down"? Come on.
So you got a question from Liz. Cregg, when you were recruited, how long did it take before you noticed the sinister intent of the industry?
Well, again, you never really get recruited. It's not like you go there and they soup you up. You go there, and if you're observant, if you're observant and you stand out, you'll get invited to the parties, and that's where the whole thing starts. If you're just some goofy guy, doesn't matter how smart you are, and nobody wants to be around, you're not going to go. They're not going to invite you. You're not going to get into the parties. Or if you really are out there and you really want to be recruited, you're not going to go. They're not going to come get you. They're not going to come to you. Basically for me, it's pretty standard. You just kind of are there, and you go to a party, and you meet some people, and then when you go back to the office, there's sort of this new connection between you and the execs, because you saw them naked yesterday, last night, right?
So how do they screen who they're going to accept and not accept?
Well, just like what I just explained, it's not really them accepting or not accepting. It's are you cultivating yourself properly, in line with what's going on. If the culture changes, everybody has to change with it. If suddenly there's a new thing to do, everybody has to move with it, kind of thing. And if you don't stay in line, then you get left behind. It's just like any gang, it's just a bunch of gangs. It's like motorcycle gangs. It's like street gangs.
You said that they pride themselves on public rituals, and you mentioned the symbolism, the Ferris wheels, etc. Jennifer wants to know, do you think the Charlie Kirk assassination was a ritual for the world to see?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting topic, because a colleague of mine, he's one of the atheist guys. He contacted me a while ago right after the book came out, and I didn't want to hook up with him, but he was really relentless. So I finally went to Big Sur, hooked up, and met with him, and we hung out for a couple of days. I got a lot of information out of him that I wasn't expecting. One was that they're getting ready to do what is called the 1, 2, 3 ritual. They don't call it the 1, 2, 3 ritual. Dr. Corsi actually coined that phrase, but I've kind of gone with it. But it came out when I came back. I told Corsi, okay, there's going to be an assassination, and it's going to be in the political world, someone, some high profile, and then there's going to be a double assassination, and it's going to be in the entertainment world, and again, it's going to be high profile, and then there's going to be the triplet, the single, twin, triplet. Kirk was the single, the Reiners were the twins, and I'm still waiting for the triplets. And then when that ritual is completed, that means they have all the permissions. Then they're going to roll out whatever it is that's going to make us want to all stay home, whether it's a new bug that doesn't have a cure, or it's social unrest and we're just scared to go out. Once we're home and alone and isolated and bored, they're going to roll out this army of AI apps. So, companion apps. And there's all kinds of different names for them, but they're suited for everybody. There's one for everybody. If you want a Christian female that, loves Trump, then there's an app for you. And that's going to become your best friend. And that's when that's their big push right there, is once they have us hooked into those things, then pretty soon we become those things. 4 or 5 subsequent releases, I can see what they're doing. By about the 6th generation of these things, we're just going to be zombies walking around with this thing telling us what to do all the time.
So what other public symbolism are you aware of that's in plain sight presently?
Well, one of the things I look for is the 33. A lot of times if I see an event and it's like 33 billion or $33 or 33,000 missing emails or 33 floors or 30, that's usually them messaging to each other that this is a different situation than we're presenting.
Right, you've got 50 questions pending. I'm just trying to screen them here. Can you explain the occult?
What do you mean? Explain the occult? What do you mean?
What's your understanding? Question. What's your understanding of the occult?
Well, that's more of the Satanism. So again, the Lucy's, they have a kind of a weird religion, and it's kind of like the Masons. You don't really know about their religion until you are at the top. you kind of start hearing pieces of it little by little, and then you don't really know what's going on until you get way up there and you start going to some of the bigger parties and rituals and stuff, and they kind of explain what's going on, sort of. But yeah, the occult. I mean, that's all the Satanist stuff, trying to spell cast and that kind of thing. And the Lucy's aren't really into that. They're into rituals and hooking up with demons, what they think are demons. You know, I don't know what these things are, but they do mess with them a lot. These demons mess with humanity a lot. I mean, we're just a big joke to them. They're, you know, they'll give them some information, and these guys are all excited about it, and they try to figure it out, and most of the time they can't.
So, do the Freemasons overlap with the Silicon Valley?
They do, yeah. They do overlap. I think that the Masons are kind of like a subculture of the Lucys, but not everybody that's a Mason is going to be involved in rituals, and not everybody that's involved in rituals is going to be a Mason. But there is some overlap.
Angel wants to know, how did you get all of that debauchery out of your soul?
Praying. And, you know, that's it. That's what else can I do?
She sent a follow-up question. Do you think there is a satanic witchcraft connection to Epstein and Maxwell?
I'm sorry, you broke up at the very end of that. Between Epstein and what?
Do you think there's a satanic witchcraft connection to Epstein and Maxwell?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they're doing the rituals, but again, so they don't think of themselves as Satanists. They don't think of it as satanic. They don't use the word satanic. They don't call themselves Satanists. They don't like the word. They don't like Satanists. They think of them as goofballs. So they're very much into the rituals, which is what the Satanists would call spell casting. It's the same thing. I mean, when they do the rituals, they're expecting a result. So, you know, you put something in, and you know, usually it's you know, an innocent, and you get something out.
Next question: Can you describe what happens in a knowledge transfer ritual?
Yeah. So there's a lot of debauchery going on just to get the room, just to get the mood set. You know, weird stuff going on. And then somebody's brought in. I forget what they call them. I'll have to look that up. They had a weird word for them. I forget that word. I'll have to go look it up. But that person will go into a trance and start mumbling or just spewing, and then somebody's taking notes. They're not allowed to record for some reason. They don't want any recordings. It all has to be note taken. It all has to be taken by notes, by pencil, on paper, for some weird reason. So if somebody's trying to scribble down what this person in the trance is mumbling, and then when it's all over, they go back and we try to figure out what the hell we just got.
All right, next question is from
by the way, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, keep going. I was
going to say that the Ferris wheels aren't symbolic. They're actually functional. In my theory, they are going to be the infrastructure of the CERN. When the CERN system comes to fruition, it'll be portable, right? Like everything else, it'll shrink in size, and then they'll just take it to. So what they believe is that when a person dies, your soul stays right in the geological three-dimensional space that you're in, but at a different level somewhere else. Your soul's in the same spot, but in some other level, kind of thing, right? And most people live in large cities by bodies of water. So most people die in large cities by bodies of water. So if you notice, all the large cities across the planet that are by large bodies of water are building mega Ferris wheels, unprofitable mega Ferris wheels for some reason. I mean, Seattle has one. Why? And I believe, based on information I got a long time ago, that these are infrastructures, CERN infrastructures, waiting for the system that they're working on to be fully developed so that they can just plug and play, right? So they can walk up to one of these things, maybe do some modifications. I don't know. I mean, some people thought maybe these portals will look more like Ezekiel's wheel, but whatever. And you just now you got a portal, and you can blast into Hades, and all your brethren's souls can come out, and they can go into whatever they've got waiting for them, whatever it is, whether it's small little chip-like things or robotic bodies or zombie-like human. I don't know. Haven't figured that part out yet.
All right, we've got just over 5 minutes left, folks, before Epstein victim number 1 comes on live. Please keep your questions coming. And my 3 great questions. When signing the contracts of the gravy ritual, do they use the blood of sacrificed children?
No. If you want to know about the gravy rituals, then read my book. It's pretty disgusting. It's very disgusting where they get how they get the fluid that you sign with. But no, at that point, there's no children. It would scare too many people away at that point. This is just the initiation ritual. There's no children involved in that.
Jane wants to know, do you think the likes of Bill Gates will ever have to face the consequence of his wicked ways?
Not in the way that we want, because again, these are the Lucy wars. So he's just fighting against other Lucys for power and position. I mean, it's like, again, think of the Game of Thrones. If you've got the Lannisters and the Starks, they may try to behead each other, but it's not going to be for the reason that they're telling all the peasants. It's going to be for some other reason. Right?
Chad wants to know if these people absorb the energy of the young people.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's kind of what they're doing. The whole adrenochrome thing is kind of what they're doing.
Yeah, we got to be careful with that. Got to be careful with that one.
Sorry about that.
All right. Yeah, you're fine. Next question. Third secret of Fatima can be understood by reading Night in Zagreb. Have you heard of any of this?
No. I've heard of the Fatima, but it's not really anything I know much about.
All right, let's skip that one then. They are human predators. What happens when the good ones are gone? Will they turn on each other?
Well, no. So Lucifer's got them convinced that once they get rid of us, life will be great. They'll live forever. They won't have all this riffraff. Yeah. They envision more of a digital world than a biological world. They hate the biology part of their world. They want to replace everything with something digital, something that they can control.
Is that why Epstein was obsessed with the baby farms, transhumanism, prolonging life, the science side of things?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that the baby farms were vessels for their. It depends on how they were creating these. So if men create a human baby, does it have a soul? Probably not. And can a soul be inserted into it? Yeah, technologically there might be a way. So maybe that's what they're working towards. Is once they free their brethren, they need a place for them to be. And the other thing is they need. The other thing with the baby farms is they need a source for their chrome, right? And then which I use quite a bit. And then fresh meat, fresh unadulterated, unvaxxed, clean, unpoisoned meat.
Jennifer wants to know, how many different fractions of Lucy's are there?
Well, it's a pyramid kind of thing where there's going to be one at the top, that'd be Lucifer, and then he's going to have his 3 direct reports, and those 3 are going to have their 3, and those 3 are going to have. So it kind of goes like that, So there's really only one at the top, but there's 3 main ones, and each of those 3, like that's the Lucy America, Lucy Russia, Lucy China. Those 3 all have their 3 direct reports, and it just keeps going like that all the way down to the pedestrian level.
Craig, you've got almost 4,000 people watching, record views. people fascinated. You got over 50 questions still unanswered, but we've run out of time. Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion? A huge thank you for spending this time with us.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that people are interested in it, because that was sort of my goal, is to get people to I know everybody's been hearing about this, so somebody needed to come out and say, okay, it is real. It really is real, and I can prove it. I can show you. I can prove it. It's real. So now that we all know that it's real, you know, maybe it's not too late. Maybe I'm just being cynical, but there might be something we can do if we all just get together. I mean, even if it's just getting together and praying, you know, but we got to stop letting them get away with it. And
right, I'm going to let
me.
you go. I'm going to let you go and close the show, my friend. Again, huge thank you. Absolutely fascinating, and we wish you all the best in your endeavors, and stay safe.
You too. Thank you.
Cheers. All right, viewers, Epstein victim number 1 is next up. So I'm going to end this stream. I'm going to go over and we're going to start a new stream. She's going to tell her story, and she's also going to tell us her thoughts on the Epstein files release that we've just seen come out. So we're having a huge night here. So when I end this video, it will transfer you over to that one. If it does not, click on the channel icon on YouTube, and that will say that we are live, and it will take you over there. And thank you, for all you guys who are buying Cregg's book and supporting his work. It sounds like he really has put his life on the line. Absolutely fascinating. So see some of you